Once upon a time, there lived a monkey on an apple tree. The apples were a bright red color and extremely juicy. One day, a crocodile came to the tree and asked the monkey for some apples. The monkey was glad to help. He even gave the crocodile some apples to take home for his wife. When his wife tasted the apples, she grew curious to taste the monkey's heart. She persuaded her husband to get the monkey's heart for her, or else she would die. The crocodile was in a dilemma, but finally agreed. The next day, when he went to the shore, he invited the monkey to his home. The monkey gladly accepted. He sat on the crocodile's back and they started their journey. When they reached the middle of the water, the crocodile started sinking low and told the monkey of his plan. The monkey did not lose his presence of mind and said that he had left his heart on the tree and that the crocodile would have to take him back. The foolish crocodile took him back to the shore. At once, the monkey leaped on the tree and told the crocodile that he was the biggest fool on the planet and the monkey had made a mistake in trusting him. Moral: be cautious of who you befriend. Your best friend may be your biggest enemy. A poor man's wealth. Ramchand and Premchand were neighbors. Ramchand was a poor farmer. Premchand was a landlord. Ramchand used to be very relaxed and happy. He never bothered to close the doors and windows of his house at night. He had deep sound sleeps. Although he had no money, he was peaceful. Premchand used to be very tense always. He was very keen to close the doors and windows of his house at night. He could not sleep well. He was always bothered that someone might break open his safes and steal away his money. He envied the peaceful Ramchand. One day, Premchand called Ramchand and gave him a box full of cash, saying, "Look, my dear friend. I am blessed with plenty of wealth. I find you in poverty. So, take this cash and live in prosperity." Ramchand was overwhelmingly happy. He was joyful throughout the day. Night came. Ramchand went to bed as usual. But, today, he could not sleep. He went and closed the doors and windows. He still could not sleep. He began to keep on looking at the box of cash. The whole night he was disturbed. As soon as day broke, Ramchand took the box of cash to Premchand. He gave away the box to Premchand saying, "Dear friend, I am poor, but your money took away peace from me. Please bear with me, and take back your money." The Clever Owl. Story by Andrew Frankel. The brown owl sat on a branch and watched. He was very good at watching. His big eyes blinked. Down below, a white rabbit played in the grass. The rabbit was very fast. He was too fast to catch. Every time the owl tried to catch the rabbit ran away. The owl was hungry, but he had to find a way to catch the rabbit. How could he catch the fast rabbit? If he dove down on top of him, the rabbit would see his shadow and dive into his hole. What could he do? Suddenly, the owl had an idea. His eyes got really big, because he was excited. A moment later, he took off flying. When the owl was flying, he made sure to stay away from the rabbit. The owl didn't want the rabbit to know he was coming. Then, when he came close to the rabbit, he stretched out his body to change the shape of his shadow. The white rabbit stopped eating grass and looked. Suddenly, there was a black rabbit next to him. The white rabbit stared. He didn't know there was a black rabbit near his home. It looked like he could make a new friend. Without warning, the black rabbit disappeared, and in its place was the owl. The rabbit cried out and tried to run for his hole, but the owl was waiting for him. The rabbit ran right into the owl's claws and became his dinner. Sometimes, when you try something new, you can surprise yourself and others. Lost on the Trail. Story by Judy Eberhardt. Scott was so excited to be going on the summer day camp trip to the woods. His group was going to fish, float on a raft, and spend 2 nights sleeping in a tent. All the things boys his age loved to do, and no little sister to bother him. After arriving at camp, some of the boys wanted to go with Mr. Allen fishing, and some of the boys went on a raft with Mr. Willard. Scott said he was going fishing. "All of you that are going fishing stay with me," said Mr. Allen. Tony, Joey, Mike, and Scott were the ones that chose fishing. Larry, Eddie, and Jason wanted to go on the raft. They left with Mr. Willard. The boys gathered up their fishing poles and baskets to hold the fish they were sure they were going to catch. They started down the trail toward the lake. Lake Amber was about a half-mile down the trail. The boys arrived at the lake quickly. However, when they got there, Scott was not with them. "Where's Scott?" Mr. Allen asked the other boys. "He was right behind me," said Tony. "We did move ahead for a little while," said Joey. Mr. Allen became very worried and started shouting, "Scott, Scott!" No answer. Scott suddenly found himself lost on the trail leading to Lake Amber. "I only looked away for a minute," he thought to himself. "How could I be lost?" Scott decided to turn around and go back the way he came. He remembered the direction to the lake was south. He also remembered he had his compass from his last Boy Scout trip in his pocket. He took out his compass and realized he had been going north. Scott started down the trail in the opposite direction. As he did, he yelled, "Mr. Allen, Joey, Mike." Mike thought he heard someone yelling his name and tried to listen closely. Mr. Allen heard it too. Everyone stayed together and headed to where they heard the voice calling to them. All of a sudden, Scott jumped out from behind a tree and said, "I am so glad to see you guys." "What happened?" asked the boys and Mr. Allen. "I was looking at the trees. I must have made a wrong turn," said Scott. "When I realized what happened, you were gone." "Well, we're here now," said Mr. Allen. "Let's make sure we stay together." "Okay," the boys said, and headed back to the lake to catch some fish for dinner. A wise old owl. There was an old owl who lived in an oak tree. Every day, he observed incidents that occurred around him. Yesterday, he watched as a young boy helped an old man carry a heavy basket. Today, he saw a young girl shouting at her mother. The more he saw, the less he spoke. As the days went on, he spoke less, but heard more. The old owl heard people talking and telling stories. He heard a woman saying an elephant jumped over a fence. He heard a man saying that he had never made a mistake. The old owl had seen and heard what happened to people. There were some who became better, some who became worse. But the old owl in the tree had become wiser, each and every day. The selfish horse. A horse was grazing in a meadow. A hungry wolf approached, and the horse promised to help. But when the wolf asked the horse to share some hay to satisfy its hunger, the horse selfishly refused, stating that the hay belonged only to him. Later, when the horse fell ill, it begged the wolf to bring hay for its recovery. The wolf, remembering the horse's selfishness, refused to help. Moral: selfishness can lead to losing potential help in the future.